Rev up your engines!
Well, here's an interesting one. Toyota tops GM sales in the U.S. to be America's best-selling automaker. Now, the thing that kind of shocks me is it took this long, that there's still people out there buying these GM vehicles. I don't comprehend it myself. They have so many problems. Their quality controls, their warranty work is so shoddy. I get so many times people take it in for warranty work. It's still not fixed right. They got to take it back again. The GM was able to hang on so long. It was the first time since the first quarter of 1998 that GM wasn't the best-selling ones in the United States. That was Ford back then. They overtook GM there. Can't understand how people keep buying these things with the quality issues that they have. It just kind of amazes me that goes on. Of course, another amazing thing is last year, Volkswagen was the largest selling car in the world. Now, here we're talking about Toyota in the United States. Worldwide, Volkswagen beat out Toyota. I can't understand that either, other than I guess people buy a cheaper car and places they don't drive as long, they don't have to worry as much, like in Europe where they don't drive as far. Hey, the car's not going to fall apart as fast because they're not like Americans driving 20, 30,000 miles a year. Be that as it may, Toyota just zoomed over GM is the biggest selling one in the United States for the first time ever. Well, here we go again with Tesla insanity. A Tesla Model S Plaid just caught fire while the driver was at the wheel. Now, these things just came out in June, right? And they were supposed to come out in February. And they said, well, you know, these are complex, we're having problems. Well, now they're out. Yeah, they're having problems. This one burnt down to the ground. The guy luckily got out of the car. He had a hard time getting out because the mechanisms wouldn't work to open it up, but finally forced his way out of the car, and then it burnt down to the ground. Now, this happened in Pennsylvania. And of course, realize a regular car, if it starts on fire, they say it takes about 200 gallons to put the fire out. It can take over 25,000 gallons of water to put out the electric car fire that lithium burns hot, keeps reigniting. There's electricity involved. It's a giant mess with these things. Now, the fact that they just made this thing and it burnt down to the ground, I mean, the money you pay for one of those things and one's already burnt down to the ground and they've been out less than a month, tells you. They're rushing these things out. Here's the real problem. If you know anything about batteries, recharge even your phone battery. If you do it fast, you can feel it getting hot, right? Well, you got an electric car that's got a zillion times more power. When you're recharging it, they get hot. But when you're discharging it, they can get hot too. Either way, if they're being charged fast, they get hot. They're discharging fast, they get hot. Something's obviously wrong with them. This one started on fire and burnt down to the ground. Now, the guy who owns it's suing Tesla. And of course, it's, you know, they'll go on forever. They'll say it was this, and Tesla will say, no, it's his fault, blah, 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 blah. They don't want to take responsibility. They built a car that burnt down to the ground in less than a month. The guy said he saw smoke coming out, and he had to force his way out because the locks didn't work. Once he got out of the car, said the car started to move on its own and then got engulfed in flames. I don't think I'm going to be buying one of these things anytime soon. And that's the thing. You're dealing with a lot of electricity, a lot of power, a lot of wires. This is a brand new vehicle. Imagine what's going to happen when these things get old. Even on regular cars I've worked on for 53 years. When the electrical systems start to have problems, things corrode, you can feel the cables getting hot. All right? That's with only 12 volts. You put a lot more voltage in, that heat turns into fire a lot faster. Car fires in normal cars aren't usually that common, especially electrical fires. 12 volts is not that dangerous, but the voltage in those Teslas, phew, imagine when these things get old. If they're burning up when they're less than a month old, as they get older and they get more problems, even more fires are going to occur. If you need 25,000 gallons of water to put them out, there'll be messes all over the place. Certainly don't take your Tesla out in the desert. There's not going to be any water to put it out with. Here we go again. GM has to recall more than 350,000 SUVs over suspension issues. Turns out that they might have not made the rear suspension toe link properly. They weren't tightened, and things could fall off, and then you lose steering. Whole investigation started because 3 people were injured in crashes, and they saw that the link had come apart on the vehicles. This includes Cadillac SRXs from 2010 to 2016, and the Saab 94Xs SUVs that were made 2011 and 2012. You know, back then GM had a deal going with Saab. It doesn't even exist anymore. It was such a poorly made company anyways. There's 350,000 of them. So if you got a GM SUV, my advice is get your VIN number, go to the National Highway Traffic Safety Association.org website, type in your VIN number, see if you are included, and if so, take it in. You don't want your rear suspension coming apart while you're driving down the road. Just amazes me the lack of quality that GM has. It's astounding. It's like every day it's a new one that's coming out. Now, oh, well, the rear suspension might come apart and your car's going to crash, huh? Listen to old Scotty, take my advice. If you value your life, don't buy a GM product anymore. They made good ones up to maybe 2005, 2006, but then, and this goes from 2010 to 2016. Well, like I say, after 2006-7, they started making junk. Near.241 says, my long-term fuel trim is always negative. I've got a Mazda 3, 2016. I changed the spark plugs. What should I check? Long-term fuel trim is negative. That means it's subtracting fuel. That means your vehicle is running too rich. Watch my video. Make your car run better with a little spray cleaner. Clean the throttle and clean the mass airflow sensor. That could fix the whole thing. You never know. Of course, check the fuel filter and the air filters. If they're dirty, you got to replace them. If it's not that, sometimes the fuel injectors just get dirty and they dribble. And instead of a spray, it's a dribble, and it makes them run too rich because it doesn't burn correctly. In that case, get some really good fuel injection cleaner. Techron, Redline, whatever you like. As long as it's got the nitrogen-based cleaner in it, the PEA, put it in, and that could help it too. Because when your fuel trims are negative, that means the computer is subtracting fuel because it's running too rich. Positive, that would mean it's running too lean, like you have an air leak or something like that. But you don't have an air leak because an air leak makes them run lean, not rich. So you don't have to worry about that. There's some reason you're getting too much fuel in the system. E says, what can cause oil leaks in a BMW? Anybody know where they can come from? I got a new valve cover gasket. Didn't help anything. It comes from the front of the engine on both sides. Here's the problem with BMWs. Ages ago, they were great cars in the 70s, 80s. Then they started putting plastic on everything. Those things have horrible plastic oil filter assemblies that are a real pain to take out. It's going to cost you close to $1,000. They have little gaskets in them. They go bad, but you got to take it all apart, so it costs a fortune. There's so much plastic crap on those engines, and that's generally where the oil leaks from. Now, if you want to start from scratch, watch my video, Finding Engine Oil Leaks. You get some ultraviolet dye that goes in the engine oil. You drive it on the highway, you come back. You get yellow sunglasses, comes with a kit, UV light. And when you see that green dye coming out, follow it to the top and you'll see exactly where it's coming from. Often it's the oil filters on those things. The assembly's plastic, gasket leaks, and you got to take it all apart. But there's so much plastic crap on those cars. Invariably, it has to do something with either a cracked piece of plastic or a gasket that's on the plastic. They're just, for the money you pay, you're getting plastic junk in a BMW. Nansen says, why does my Civic make a ticking noise when I go uphill? I got a 1998 Civic hatchback. Every time I go uphill, I hear a weird ticking sound. Happens with all my Civics. It's old. It's a 98, right? What happens is when you're going uphill, it strains the engine. And you're probably hearing a little bit of valve knocking. And that's because either the valves aren't adjusted. You got to adjust them in Hondas all the time. You know, maybe every 60, 70,000 miles. But they need to be adjusted. If you haven't, start there. Now, if that's not it, it's generally because you're going uphill, the engine's strained, octane are lower than they used to be in gasoline, and you can get valve knocking because the octane's kind of low for a worn engine. You could have your engine carbon cleaned by a pro with his equipment, because if you clean the carbon out of the engine, it runs more efficiently. And you could also have your timing checked, because it could be that the timing belt on a 98 could stretch. As it wears, it stretches, the timing is off, and it can easily make it go when you're going uphill, because that's a full load strain. And if there's any minor things wrong, it's going to make noise. Now, if it only does it going uphill, it's probably not going to hurt anything. If you want to get rid of it, you try those things first. If you want the easiest thing to try, put 1 tank of Shell Super unleaded, and if it doesn't tick going uphill, you know it has to do with the ignition timing, because that's a higher octane, and then it won't knock. Scott Smith says, a Honda Civic with a boxer engine? Here's a question I wonder. Honda has been designing and building initially 4-cylinder and later 6-cylinder flat engines for Goldwing motorcycles. Why didn't they ever develop it for Honda Civic or CR-V, for instance? Well, mainly because Honda's gone way beyond that technology. Honda makes excellent 4-cylinder regular engines in line. Why they want to go back into the past and start designing something else? They pretty much perfected the inline 4-cylinder engine. Going back to boxer would be stupid. They have it all designed for that. There's no point in doing that. The motorcycles, motorcycles, they only sell a certain amount of them, make a certain amount of profit. Their money's in cars. They make great engines. There's no reason to go back to the drawing board for something like that. Theoretically, yeah, it's an interesting thing. If they did do it, it would be kind of cool, but mass production, why would you start from scratch when you already got a great engine? Would make no sense either economically or from an engineering standpoint for Honda. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.